to clean a city of any dirt begins with individual action for collective clean communities. President Muhammadu Buhari has issued new directives on COVID-19 donations to Nigeria by philanthropists, companies, and international organizations. Director, Information and Press, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Ensho Ogubike, made this known in a statement in Abuja. In the statement, the president was said to have approved the opening of 5 COVID-19 donor accounts, which form part of the existing Treasury single account arrangement in 5 commercial banks. Ogubike disclosed that the approved banks were Zenith Bank, Access Bank, Guaranty Trust Bank, UBA, and First Bank. He said the directive also included donations under the Private Sector Coalition Against COVID-19 fund domiciled at the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Nigeria Private Sector Coalition Against COVID-19, as of April 23rd, realized about 27.160 billion naira. Ogun State Deputy Governor, Engineer Naimot Salako Ojedele, has urged Chinese entrepreneurs in the state to support all government policies in the management of coronavirus spreading across the state. Engineer Salako Ojedele, who gave the charge while receiving 2 checks from Ogun Guandong Free Trade Zone, Igbesa, and Chinese entrepreneurs community as part of the organization's contributions in supporting the government in the management of pandemic in the state, said that as employers, it was important for them to educate their staffers on preventive measures in order to help reduce the impact of the virus on the state and the country at large. She added that the state government was doing all that is possible in providing succor and managing the pandemic with the establishment of isolation centers to prevent possible surge of community transmission, enforce lockdown, as well as provide palliative materials to cushion the effect on the people.
I can assure you that we're doing all we can to make sure that we provide support for our people in Ogun State and make sure that we have the right equipment and the right facilities in place to be able to manage people who fall ill. We have this first aid funded laboratory here in Ogun State. We have since also got a donation from a partner of our lab, so we're able to test suspected cases quicker and start to manage them quicker, which makes their prognosis for the disease much better and also reduces the community spread. So once they're aware that they're positive, then they manage and control how they associate it with the public. So
Earlier in his presentation, the General Manager of Ogun Guandong Free Trade Zone, Igbesa, Mr. Asin Huang, who presented a check of 2 million naira, said Ogun State has been a reliable partner for most private sectors, adding that Ogun Free Trade Zone would continue to synergize with the government in the fight against COVID-19. Chinese entrepreneurs community, represented by its Deputy General Manager, Mr. Daniel Wiche, also presented a check of 3.5 million naira to the state government. Towards curtailing the spread of the global coronavirus pandemic in Ogun State, the state judiciary has commenced virtual proceedings in order to ensure speedy justice dispensation. The maiden virtual proceedings was held at the Judiciary Complex, Kopakpe Road, Abeokuta, where the Chief Judge, Honorable Justice Musumola Tekpeolu, presided over. Judiciary correspondent Kunle Ibekunle's report is presented in this package.
Ever since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria, the level of dispensation of justice in Ogun State have been slowed down. In view of this, the state judiciary has taken a giant stride by introducing virtual proceedings in order not to delay dispensation of justice, as 2 cases were brought for mentioning before the State High Court, which was presided over by the State Chief Judge, Honorable Justice Musumola Tekpeolu. The 2 cases were AB/5R/2020, State vs. Adetoye Emmanuel Ifelua, and AB/19R/2019. State versus Yusuf Ayinde, and Ajibola Samuel, with the plea of the accused taken, but due to coronavirus lockdown, all the witnesses cannot appear. The Director of Public Prosecution and State Counsel, Mr. Segun Olauton, pleaded for the cases to be adjourned till 26 May and 9th June 2020 respectively, and was adjourned by the Chief Judge, Honorable Justice Musumola Dikbeolu, the presiding judge. Speaking on the new developments in the state judiciary, the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Mr. Akingbola Adeniran, and State Director of Public Prosecution, Mr. Segun Olauton, lauded the initiative, saying it will go a long way in speedy justice dispensation in the state.
Judiciaries across the country should have been moving towards more electronic document management system, electronic proceedings, being able to have witnesses or defendants attend or participate remotely. And we're aspiring towards that. Now, today, what we did was a proof of concept to show that it can work, and indeed it worked. In order for it to expand into all phases of proceedings, because as you can see, to do a trial is a different thing. What the cases today, we call cases for mention. But when it's a full-blown trial, we also need to make sure that the technology is available to support it. But like I keep saying, this is the first of 3 phases. This is to show that we're serious and we're actively engaging technology. We're reviewing the processes. The judiciary has also issued new practice directions, which is available on their website, that enables and gives the legal backing to what we are doing today.
Nothing is static in life. The coronavirus pandemic has brought out the ingenuity in us to look out for a way out so that we don't keep criminals in detention perpetually, because nobody knows when this thing will leave us. And does it mean that as long as it's with us, we keep them there? So this is an avenue for us to begin to work on their cases, even though we are having the lockdown. So everybody in Ogun State should be happy, the judiciary should be happy that we have this technology with us now. And it is not only for now, even after the lockdown, is a way for us to go. We have to make progress.
Mr. Akingbola Adeniran further reiterated government's plans to further improve the state judiciary in the area of information communication technology, just as he assured judiciary officials of capacity building towards enhancing their productivity.
The people of Abeokuta, the state capital, have again used the opportunity of relaxation of lockdown to attend to their business activities and do some shopping while observing the necessary guidelines to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the state. A visit to markets, motor parks, banks and other areas in the city by Ogtv News revealed the level of compliance with some of the guidelines, as banks were besieged by customers who want to transact one business or the other. Matthew Shewumi completes the report.
Some minutes after 9 in the morning, banks in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, were besieged by a crowd of people who are eager to use the opportunity of relaxation of lockdown to carry out one business activity or the other with little or no regard for the rule of social distancing, while few of them use face masks. The quietness that was the order of the day during the lockdown, giving way for the hustle and bustle of city life as roads are clogged with streams of vehicles, as road users try to outdo one another to finish up with whatever they came out to do before the 5 p.m. expiration of the relaxation.
I personally have been advising them that they should give me a little bit distance because of this thing.
It is to me, our workers, they should exercise some strength. That is not when everybody is there that can go. There are occasions whereby you can go into the ATM, make use of it. In effect, the banks should equally have a way of going about it.
Taxi cabs, commercial motorcyclists, and other operators have started complying with the directive on not to carry more than 2 passengers at the back and 1 in the front, as some of the operators speak on what is being done to obey the directive to stop the spread of the virus, while motor parks across the city are also following the rules.
Well, as much as possible, all the precautions, according to the NCDC, they are observing them. The use of face mask and the washing of hands, all those things. And they make sure that even their motorboys have a face mask. So, and as much as possible, they do comply with the curfew. There's curfew in Lagos State, and also in Ogun State there is lockdown, and every other day it is being lifted.
Business and commercial activities picked up in some of the markets visited as people continue to use the opportunity of relaxation to restock and carry out other activities, as some of the traders have already put measures in place to curtail the spread of the virus. In Lafenwa Abattoir, the meat sellers were seen complying with the directive of the government on the use of face masks while observing the necessary guidelines, as the chairman of Youth Butchers Association in Ogun State, Alhaji Yusuf Ahmed, said the sensitive nature of their business has made it mandatory for all members to comply with the guidelines for prevention of the spread of the pandemic.
tán ní gbogbo ọmọ ìpínlẹ̀ Ògùn tó bá máa jáde ó gbọ́dọ̀ fi nǹkan bomú ẹ̀ ní Abẹ́òkúta ń bí tí ó jẹ́ kọta gbogbo alápatà nípínlẹ̀ Ògùn. Ìlànà Ọlọ́run àná ìgbégbèsè lórí ẹ̀ bá a ṣe ń ṣe àtúnṣe ọwọ́ wa lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ náà àwọn èèyàn wa náà ń fi nǹkan bomú wọn.
Nínú ṣọ́ọ̀bù tèmi náà nísìn kán tó wọlé wọ́n ní láti fọ ọwọ́ wọn, lẹ́yìn tí wọ́n bá fọ ọwọ́ wọn dẹ̀ ní láti bo ẹnu wọn ká lè dẹ́kun àrùn àìsàn coronavirus kó má bàa kárí.
The people are, however, advised to continue to comply with the government directive to curtail the spread of COVID-19 and safeguard the health of all. As more and more continue to bemoan the impact of the pandemic on their business and other daily activities, for this set of people selling face masks, it was a business opportunity and an avenue to make money. Matthew Shomi, Ogtv News.
2 of the 33 COVID-19 active cases in Oyo State have absconded. Governor Seyi Makinde disclosed this on Wednesday via his official Twitter handle. He said more results from the outstanding coronavirus confirmation test had been received by the state. The governor said a total of 975 samples have so far been collected and are being processed. According to the governor, the state reached more results from pending COVID-19 confirmation tests as the result of one suspected case came back positive on May 3rd. The person is based in Ibadan. The results of 5 suspected cases came back positive on May 4. 4 of these 5 cases are immigrants, and the last person is an Oyo State resident. The governor urged members of the public to contact the Emergency Operations Center on the emergency numbers if they found travelers from other states in their neighborhood. 3 more COVID-19 patients have tested negative to the virus after treatment and have been discharged from hospital in Ondo State. The Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Donald Ojogo, disclosed this in a press statement issued in Akure, the state capital. Mr. Ojogo further disclosed that 7 of the 13 confirmed cases in Ondo State are still on admission at the Infectious Disease Hospital, Akure, and under strict protocols. The commissioner noted that with most of the COVID-19 positive cases being imported from other states, the Ondo State government is intensifying efforts to ensure all its land borders remain closed and adequately monitored by security agents. He also stated that the restriction of movement in the state as directed by government is still in operation. 32 health workers in various hospitals across Kano State have tested positive for the coronavirus. The state government confirmed this in a report via its Twitter handle in the early hours of Wednesday, and this was confirmed by Sanusi Bala, chairman of the Nigeria Medical Association in the state. The new infections bring the total number of cases recorded in the state to 397. 3 have, however, recovered and have been discharged, while 8 persons have died. An unidentified patient who tested positive for coronavirus in Bauchi has fled from an isolation center. Bauchi Deputy Governor Senator Bala Tella, who is the chairman of the Task Force Response Committee on Lassa fever and coronavirus, confirmed the development to newsmen in Bauchi while giving a situation update on Wednesday. Tella did not disclose the identity of the fleeing patient, but noted that manhunt has begun and urged members of the public to be vigilant. In Taraba State, there is a growing panic as 7 more persons tested positive on Wednesday. The total cases have risen to 15. The 7 new cases are among the 124 discharged from the quarantine center by the State Task Force COVID-19 on Sunday. The discharged were among the 130 travelers intercepted by the security personnel at the state's borders and quarantined at the NYSC orientation camp. The Commissioner for Health said those who have had contact with the 7 positive persons will be traced and quarantined. And coming up in part 2 of the news, Presidential Task Force debunks approval of any medication for treatment of COVID-19. Details shortly. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us on part 2 of the news. Report just coming in as it that the Emirates Airlines aircraft evacuating Nigerians from the United Arab Emirates has arrived the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. Regional Manager, Southwest Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, Mrs. Victoria Shinaba, said the aircraft arrived 7:30 this morning. The 260 evacuees are, however, on their way to the isolation center prepared by the Lagos State Government and National Center for Disease Control. After alighting from the aircraft, they were profiled by security, health and border control officials at the Lagos airport. The federal government has extended the ban placed on flights in the country as part of efforts to curtail the spread of coronavirus for another 4 weeks. The chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Bosgida Mustafa, disclosed this at the daily briefing of the task force on Wednesday. Mustafa said the decision to extend the ban was taken after due consultation with experts. The federal government has granted a 2-month license fee waiver for terrestrial broadcast stations in the country as part of measures to cushion the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on the broadcast industry. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, disclosed this at a meeting with the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, BON, in Abuja. The minister said he also approved the distribution of protective equipment to some community broadcast stations across the country by the NBC. Mohammed acknowledged the fact that BON members and other sectors of the creative industry in general had been hit hard by the effects of the pandemic. He disclosed that the government was taking a holistic approach to address the damage inflicted by COVID-19 on the creative industry. The minister said that government had decided to set up a committee of industry stakeholders to look into and advise on the best way to mitigate the effects of the pandemic on the industry. The National Coordinator of the Presidential Task Force, PTF, on COVID-19, Dr. Sonny Aliyu, has said no medication has been licensed for treating COVID-19 patients in the country. The PTF coordinator, who was debunking reports that some drugs and local herbs are available as cure for COVID-19, insisted that no medication has been confirmed for the disease. According to him, it must be made clear at the moment that there is no medication that has been confirmed to be effective and licensed for COVID-19 infection. He, however, noted that the United States of America had given temporal approval for the use of an antiviral drug called remdesivir for a clinical trial in the quest to find a cure for the pandemic. Remdesivir is an antiviral drug initially developed to treat Ebola, which was given after a major trial found that it boosted recovery in serious COVID-19 patients. The approval is the latest step in a global push to find viable treatments and a vaccine for the coronavirus, which has left half of humanity under some form of lockdown, affected the world economy, and infected more than 3.3 million people. The Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehenire, shared a similar view last week, stressing that there was no cure yet for the disease, but research was ongoing. The number of coronavirus cases across African continent has reached 49,121, with 1,956 related deaths, the World Health Organization (WHO) Africa said on Wednesday. According to the organization statistics, COVID-19 has reached all 54 African countries, and only 9 of them have yet to register any fatalities from the disease. South Africa has the highest tally with 7,572 cases, while Egypt and Algeria follow with 7,201 and 4,838 cases, respectively. The spread of the disease appears to be on steep trajectory, as only 15,000 cases had been recorded on the continent in mid-April. WHO Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus last month expressed concern about the ability of health core systems in developing nations to cope with a sharp increase in patients should the coronavirus take hold on the continent. Many nations have taken a variety of mitigation measures, and many have issued stay-at-home orders. The United Nations says 1 billion people living with disabilities worldwide have been among the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who disclosed this in a statement, added that the implementation of the basic rights of such persons has deteriorated in light of the health crisis. The COVID-19 crisis is affecting every aspect of the societies. The statement adds that even under normal circumstances, persons with disabilities are less likely to access education, health care, and income opportunities or participate in the community. It therefore urged governments worldwide to focus attention on such people in the fight against the pandemic. The defense headquarters said troops have killed 343 Boko Haram ISWAP terrorists during operations between March 18 and May 5 in the northeast. The coordinator, Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enechene, stated this while giving an update on the military operations across the country. Enechene said several other terrorists suffered various degrees of gunshot with narrow chances of survival, adding that many others, including their key leaders, were killed through air bombardment. He also disclosed that most of the terror group's logistics, installations, and networks were being destroyed, while 16 of the informants and logistics suppliers were arrested within the period. He, however, said some members of the military were killed and others wounded during the operations. Nigeria's foremost and prolific writer, Mrs. Fibian Ajibola Ogundipe's contribution to the development of education in Nigeria cannot be overemphasized. Her publication of the Brighter Grammar Practical English series, among others, arguably had a greater influence on the language learning among the youth in Nigeria. Shemilori Amore takes a look at the life and times of the author.
Famous author of English language books and an educationist, Mrs. Fibian Ajibola Ogundipe's life, mirrored the strong interest in Western education, which was to become the main driver of development in Western Nigeria. She was Senior Education Officer and subsequently Inspector of Education in the Old Western State. Working in these influential positions, she was able to oversee the entrenchment of free education policies inaugurated by the late sage Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and helped to ensure that they contributed maximally to the overall development of Western Nigeria at the time. At the national level, Mrs. Ogundipe was a Deputy Chief Federal Advisor on Education and was National Secretary for the United Nations Educational, Cultural and Scientific Organization, UNESCO. In 1979, the federal government of Nigeria duly recognized her sterling contribution to educational development when it awarded her the national honor of Officer of the Order of the Niger, OON. As an author, she became well known with the publication of Practical English in 1972. The success of Practical English was followed by Brighter Grammar in 1983 and New Practical English for SSS in 2007. These books were the standard teaching texts for English language in the nation's primary and secondary schools and further cemented her reputation as an outstanding educationist and writer. Mrs. Ogundipe was until her death in March 2020 a preeminent symbol of an era which education was truly valued and acknowledged by all without reservation. Shemilori Amore, Ogtv News.
40 years ago, today specifically, May 6, 1980, Akpala music icon Ayinla Omowura passed on. But for this long, rather than permanently go into oblivion, the music and the personality of the man, popularly called Anigilaje, continue to wax stronger. Biodun Alabi put this together to celebrate the life of this icon 40 years after his death.
On the 6th of May 1980, the ancient town of Abeokuta and beyond got a rude shock. Ayinla Anigilaje Omowura, Akpala music superstar, passed on during a brawl at Agoika area of the town. Report has it that Ayinla Omowura was stabbed on the head with a bottle by one of his composers and confidants, Bayenwu, who was later tried in court, convicted, and sentenced to death by hanging. But Ayinla's music and personality did not die with him. "40 years after his passage, there are still hundreds of diehard fans of his music and his colossal strides in the history of Nigeria's traditional music."
He was everything that I could think about a person. Apart from being a musician, by my own interpretation, he was a fantastic journalist.
How?
Well, for every event that had meaning in this country that happened, Ayinla reported them in his music. He reported them, talk about sports. All the footballs played, look at the game between Mighty Jet and Rangers. Fantastic report. There are so many others that I cannot even imagine. In fact, a very close colleague of mine used Ayinla Omowura for his PhD degree, and he had a PhD on Ayinla Omowura. Being a legend, being a musician, being a journalist, being a reporter of any event that his music typifies.
In all his music, from volume 1 to 20, you could see that he really displayed the intuition or very unprecedented knowledge of the typical Yoruba people. And as a typical Yoruba man, he sang a lot to correct anomalies even in society and give information.
Without formal education, Ayinla carved a niche in the minds and the music library of the high society, particularly in social analysis and in developmental commentaries.
He didn't go to school, or he wasn't so learned, so to say, but yet he was a musician of note. That up to today, 40 years after his death, his records still made waves. I've always used him as an example of people who blame circumstances for their failure. Circumstances can happen. Do not blame any circumstance. Create your own circumstance to make you a success.
This man worth remembering, worth immortalizing. This man should be given a national honor posthumously.
while they commend successive Ogun State governments for their efforts at properly immortalizing him. His children are still asking for more. For them, their father was incomparable in music and in social commentaries.
Museum tí wọ́n ṣe gbogbo nǹkan tó yẹ kó wà náà kò sí náà, so tó jẹ́ pé táwọn èèyàn bá ń débi tó bá fẹ́ wọlé píkọ́ tiẹ̀ wò pé Adélé Àyìnlá ìgbà táwọn pálọ̀ yẹn àwọn ṣí àtijọ́ tó yẹ kó wà bẹ̀ gbogbo ẹ̀ kò sí ńbẹ̀, so àwọn nǹkan sì kù gan tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe fún wa.
Tipẹ́tipẹ́ làwọn èèyàn ti ń wá, wọ́n wá láti ìlú òyìnbó anywhere, gbogbo èèyàn kọ́ ẹ̀kan máa ṣáàrí pé wọ́n ń wá láti ibi tí ẹ̀ lérò, wọ́n máa péjọ, wọ́n máa nàka, ẹlòmíà ya fọ́tò, ẹlòmíà ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ tó dẹ̀ yẹ pé kò ṣe pé bó ṣe yẹ kó rí nì, bó ti díẹ̀ tó nínú nǹkan ní nǹkan, ẹni tó sì ríyàn tó mọ́yàn lójú, èèyàn àwọn ọ̀pọ̀ èèyàn wà tí wọ́n wo ibi téèyàn wà.
40 years after his death seems like yesterday, rightly because of the staying power of his music and his imprints on the sands of time. Biotun Alabi, Ogtv News.
Thank you, Biodun, for that report. On the business segment of the news, inadequate distribution facility ampers 17,945.3 megawatts of electricity generation. Join us on the other side of the break. Welcome to the business segment of the news. Nigeria has reportedly received the $3.4 billion emergency financial assistance from the International Monetary Fund. The federal government said it will use the funds, which was approved under the Rapid Financing Instrument by the Executive Board of IMF on April 28, to address challenges arising from the economic impact of the COVID-19 in the country. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said that the $3.4 billion had been credited to the account of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The IMF chief stressed the need for transparency and accountability in the management of the funds. Georgieva reportedly explained that Nigeria has met and executed the safeguards for the disbursement of the funds. The federal government has announced significant changes in key parameters in the 2020 budget, cutting down its projected earnings from the oil and gas sector by 80% to 1.1 trillion naira, and also slashing its total projected earnings by 54.65% to 3.9 trillion naira. This was revealed by a federal government team led by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, on Nigeria's response to the fall in oil prices and the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result of the impending economic difficulties, the team said the federal government projecting Nigeria's gross domestic product, GDP, to contract a 3.5% year-on-year in 2020, while oil earnings is projected to also decline by 90% in the same year. The federal government on Tuesday revealed plans to cut the oil price benchmark for the current budget to $20 per barrel. The development will make it the second time the federal government is slashing the oil benchmark for the 2020 budget. The sharp fall in the price of crude oil had earlier forced the government to slash the benchmark from $57 per barrel to 30%. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed disclosed the federal government's intention to further slash the benchmark on Tuesday, according to a report by Reuters. The report said Ahmed spoke during a web conference which focused on the impact of low oil prices on Nigeria's economy. The federal government is planning to cut oil production to 1.7 million barrels per day from the 2.1 million barrels per day processed in the 2020 budget. Nigeria will not hold bidding rounds for major oil fields until crude prices recover, and some upstream projects will be completed much later than originally planned, officials said in a web conference. Oil prices also rose as traders looked optimistically at moves by several major economies to ease coronavirus lockdowns, allowing greater economic activity and likely boosting demand for oil. International benchmark grade Brent crude maintained upside, showing in the past few days getting close to $30 per barrel. The price rose 4.4% to $29.21 per barrel, according to market insider data, while West Texas Intermediate rose close to 7% to $22.64 per barrel. Lack of distribution infrastructure stalled the generation of 17,943.5 megawatts of electricity between April 24 and May 3, 2020. Industry data obtained in Abuja on Tuesday have shown, although the unavailability of gas remained the dominant daily constraint to power generation, it was observed that the lack of distribution infrastructure also prevented a large quantum of electricity generation during the 10-day review period. Lack of distribution infrastructure was regarded as the highest constraint to power generation on April 25, as it stalled the production of 3,125.6 megawatts of electricity on that day. The advisory power team in the office of the Vice President explained that the unavailability of distribution infrastructure led to the high-frequency issues in the system, a development that hindered the generation of power daily. An analysis of the sector's daily service delivery from the data showed that on April 24, 26, and 27, lack of distribution infrastructure halted the generation of 1,231.1 megawatts, 2,204.7 megawatts, and 2,485.4 megawatts respectively. The National Insurance Commission, NICOM, says it will release a new recapitalization guideline for insurance and reinsurance companies after the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Sunday Thomas, the Commissioner for Insurance and Chief Executive Officer of NICOM, said this on Tuesday at an online meeting of insurance stakeholders titled Post-COVID-19 Impact on the Insurance Industry. Thomas said that the pillar that formed the initial recapitalization objectives, like consolidation, foreign direct investment, and hindered unrealistic by the pandemic. According to him, the Commission is to re-strategize, factoring this into the scene and creating different models to see which will be more result-oriented. The Commission had fixed the deadline for the recapitalization of the insurance and reinsurance companies for June 30, 2020, but later extended it to December 31, 2020, before the pandemic. Most equities rose again on Wednesday as investors grew increasingly but cautiously hopeful that the worst of the coronavirus had passed and as countries begin to slowly open up from lockdown. While a string of data highlighted the calamity visited upon the global economy by COVID-19, a slowdown in both infections and death in some nations is allowing them to ease restrictions that have kept half of the planet stuck at home. Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Richard Clarida provided an upbeat outlook, saying the U.S. economy could see positive growth in the second half of the year, though tempered that by saying it was dependent on containment of the virus. And that was the business segment of the news. From the global scene, Germany relaxes lockdown. Details in a short while. From the global scene, Chancellor Angela Merkel agreed to reopen all shops as part of a deal with the leaders of Germany's 16 states to ease restrictions on society. To avoid climate change crisis, experts in UK have recommended that funds